Hey everybody, my name is Daniel Blackman. I'm the former political director for Bernie Sanders in the state of Georgia. Also the former Democratic nominee for the Public Service Commission, which is a statewide position to regulate utilities in the state of Georgia. While I received over 1.1 million votes in the state of Georgia, I was unsuccessful in my bid to represent the state in the 4th district, but I learned a lot from it, and hopefully some of my experiences that I share today will be helpful to what your decisions will be in this new era that we've entered into in our democracy. First and foremost, I want to thank you guys for being here. I'm going to speak more so from my most recent race, which is running for state senate. I was the first African American to run for state senate in Forsyth County, Georgia, which is one of Georgia's most conservative counties. Not only was I the first African American to run there, but I also happen to be the first Democrat to run for the state senate in this part of the state of Georgia in over 22 years. So we had a couple of challenges that I thought were very important for me to consider before making that decision. First and foremost, Forsyth County not only has been a very conservative county, but Forsyth County has been a county that had not for a very long time been as friendly to minorities. Minorities that lived in the county, predominantly African Americans and Latinos, for a very long time in the county had been disenfranchised. There was a lot of racial challenges that the county faced. But over the last 30 years, since 1987, we have grown and the county has gotten more diverse. The county has gotten away from the stigma of some of the challenges that it has faced in the past. But look, as we enter into this era over the next 4 years with a new president and with many people focusing on grassroots organizing and considering running for office, I thought it would be important to share some of my experiences. Number one, you've got to make sure that there's a purpose behind what you're doing. No one wants to start an organization that already exists. And I don't think it's wise to run for a seat if you don't have a purpose for running for that seat, because win, lose, or draw, you should be willing to carry out that purpose. Case in point, in the county that I ran in, Forsyth County, Georgia, we have a couple of issues. We have an issue with heroin and other opioid abuse. We have a problem with incarceration levels. We're a very thriving county that has some of the fastest growth in the United States. We're one of the wealthiest counties in the United States, but we have a lot of challenges as it relates to growth within our county. So the reason why I think you should be driven to run for a seat that has a purpose along with what you're trying to accomplish is because guess what? Whether you're elected or not, the work more than likely still has to get done. Some of the things that I have been able to do since my campaign is focus specifically on how to work with public and private partnerships as well as with grassroots organizations since I'm not an elected official. Now, the second piece of advice I want to give you is pretty simple, and that's, think ahead, right? So let's just say you have chosen a potential seat that you want to run for. Well, it's very important for you to understand that when you choose that seat, you need enough time to be able to plan and to build a strategy, to build a team, and to have things in place. Something unique to myself is I've been married for 14 years. I have 3 children, and I had to take into consideration my family. I'm a business owner in the state of Georgia, so I had to take into consideration me being away from my business. And those areas are very critical to running a successful campaign because you have to consider the people and the things that will be affected around you on a daily basis, and how you being more on demand or being in many cases more requested, people are going to want you to show up. People are going to want to know your background, which leads me to my third point. Now, once you have decided with a far enough time to be able to plan, to build your team, and to put some really good things in place, to do some research, to build your issues, you need to make sure that you have a very solid and clear platform. Most people have the right heart for politics, but the issues are don't go beyond the talking points. You need to know your issues. You need to know why you're running, how it's going to affect the community, and let's just be frank. For the time we live in, we have got to make sure that we're considering the fact that everybody doesn't think like us. There are a lot of conservatives if you're a liberal or progressive-minded person, and if you're a conservative, there are a lot of liberal or progressive-minded people, which means that you've got to have a message that resonates with more than just your constituency. Another thing to consider is financial obligations, resources that you have to be able to allocate, and how you're going to be able to raise money. I think it is critical and very important for you to make these decisions based on where you are and what your overall goals are to accomplish. So I'll end with a couple of things that I think are very important. The first thing I want to do is make sure you understand the challenges and adversities that you may face. 9 times out of 10, we all know that politics can get messy. It can be challenging. Your personal life, your personal decision, your past, all that stuff is subject to be discussed. Next, you have got to make sure that you get to know people. Here's the thing. A lot of people, like I said earlier, run for office with the right intentions. They've got great hearts. But here's a challenge. People need to know you. So it would be to your advantage to start joining organizations now, to sit into meetings as a spectator and not to say, hey, my name is and I'm running for, right? Because when you come in there, people automatically will welcome you being a potential candidate, or they'll shut the blinders off because their next expression will be, well, they just want some votes. They're not here for anything beyond, a conversation letting us know why we should vote for them and how great they are. So you know what? Start early. Go out, join organizations, get a membership, be involved, be engaged, master the art of listening to understand and not to respond. And then lastly, guys, I think is probably one of the most critical things that I'll be able to tell you is to make sure that whether you want to be a leader or a voice in a grassroots organization, or if you want to be a candidate, make sure that you take the time to really understand what it is that that county, that community, that city, the public needs. Look, we're in a time right now where people need answers. We don't need another great candidate. We need solution-driven, competent people that are willing to build bridges and not walls. We need people that's going to come out and say, look, here's my plan. To be able to clearly articulate your plan so that people can understand it is critical. I challenge you to do all these things, but I also challenge you to really sit back and understand if this is the right decision for you. My name is Daniel Blackman. I hope this helps. Best wishes to whatever you do. Thanks a lot.